saw that.
I left Bob a message.
I saw that. It's scary.
And yeah.
15 seconds.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order. Would you all please rise for the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Here.
Unskill.
Here.
Director Ushka.
Here.
Director Vial.
Here.
Director Hines.
Here. We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move adoption of the agenda.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 6, recognition of staff, students, and community. 6.1, approval of the recognition of Equity Department Award recipients.
Good evening, Board President Hines and Superintendent Centeno and board members. I'm Patrick Johnson, Director of Equity and Academic Excellence for Tacoma Public Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to recognize the contributions district equity team members have made during the 2014-15 school year in moving forward equity work in the Tacoma Public School District. Our district equity policy, which was approved on June 26, 2014, outlines the practices in helping us to reach our 4 strategic plan goals of academic excellence, partnerships, early learning, and safety. The district equity team meets once a month for 90 minutes where we discuss equity issues and learn strategies. I'd like for team members in the audience to stand at this time. If there are any that are here. We have both staff members as well as community members that serve on the team, and they volunteer their time to help us to move the equity practices forward. We have special recognitions tonight. I would like for Kevin Akita, and I think that somebody's here to represent him because he couldn't make it today. And Hiani, would you please come forward? And then I have the principal of Jason Lee. Christy, would you please come forward? So I have actually 4 awards, and where's Marty? Marty, come over here, please. Please come over here. I'm going to start off with Kevin's award, which is the Equity Administrator of the Year. Kevin has just spent numerous hours working for equity in the district. He has also participated in our meetings on a regular basis and attended the Kosovo conference and helped present at our institute as well. I'm sorry, I need to speak into the mic. No. So this is the Administrator of the Year Award, which is awarded to Kevin Akita over at Stadium. Equity School of the Year. We did learning walks last year, and I got a call from the AP over there saying, what do we need to do in order to prepare for our learning walk? And I said, nothing. And it just went so smoothly. There's just tons of things that are going on over at this middle school that is deserving of the awards. And so Christy Brent is here to accept that award as Equity School of the Year. Teacher of the Year, Equity Teacher of the Year. Yanni Lee, would you please come forward? She has served on the committee as well as created documents that we published on a monthly basis that really focus on equity issues in the district. She's just done tiring work. We appreciate all of the things that you've done in order to progress equity in the district. Congratulations. And then Marty Hilliard, would you please come forward? She is receiving the Equity Lifetime Award. Marty just retired. She has served on the committee. I think she was one of the original people that started equity in the district years and years ago. She has also served on the Indian as the Educational Forum, which also she has created just all kinds of different things that are going on in the district that focus on equity, and now she's enjoying retirement. Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to share these awards with you tonight, and hope that we're able to continue the work that we are currently doing on progressing equity in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. And would the award recipients please come up so that we can congratulate you?
Greenwich this morning. Can you grab that in your hand? Yeah, Christine. Congratulations. Great job. Thank you. Thanks for all your work. I'm doing your educator. Thank you.
Appreciate all your good work.
Thank you. Can't reach enough to hug you.
He's tired. That's good.
Congratulations and everything.
Oh, I lost the cards.
All right, the next item on the agenda, 6.2, approval of recognition of Filipino American History Month.
Thank you, President Hines and members of the board. October is Filipino American History Month, and we have some special guests to honor here tonight. First, however, you should know that Filipino Americans comprise one of the largest Asian American and Pacific Islander ethnic populations in the state of Washington and the fourth largest in the United States. Earlier this month, President Obama hosted the first ever celebration of Filipino American History Month at the White House. During that event, the president said, "This month, we honor Filipino Americans who have worked to build and defend our country, and we reflect on the moments that have changed the course of American history." In Tacoma, this month provides us with a chance to promote the study of Filipino American history and culture. It allows us to recognize the richness of Filipino American ethnicity and honor the contributions of Filipino Americans, especially, as the president noted, their service with distinction in the military. Tonight we have former Tacoma Schools Principal Zenaida Slemp here, who will introduce other members of the Filipino American community and share more information with you. Please welcome Zenaida.
Well, thank you for having us here this evening, and I'd like to introduce our community that's here, Filipino community. If you'd like to come up or stand up, and I'll introduce you folks. This is Rosita Burleson and Marcel Gurnier and Angie Rotary and Brigadier General Retired Oscar Hellman. Thank you. Before I get started, there is one person that I want to thank. And ever since, even when I was a principal and retired, she was always there to assist me with whatever I needed to do with the community work. And I know that this is her last year here in Tacoma, and I just want to thank Pam Thompson for all the assistance that she's given me. Thank you so much, Pam. Well, Dan had said that this year was the first ever year that President Obama was able to have us in the White House to celebrate Filipino American History Month. And I want to say that was an astounding experience. I was there. And I brought the letter that he had written, and Dan has already said a few things about the letter, but I wanted to read it to everyone here because this is something that I'm really going to cherish. So, I'm honored to join in marking Filipino American History Month and in reflecting on the struggles and victories of many Filipino Americans who have helped shape our nation. Generations of Filipino Americans have lent their unique voices to the vibrant diversity of origins, cultures, and communities that make America what it is. Their legacy speaks to the extraordinary spirit of common purpose, of unity forged through the ideals that bind us together as one people. That has always been central to our nation. This month, we honor Filipino Americans who have worked to build and defend our country, and we reflect on moments that have changed the course of American history. 70 years ago, the United States and our allies overcame forces of tyranny and oppression that threatened not only the Pacific, but the entire world. A victory that made possible in part the thousands of Filipino Americans who fought for our nation, but who for far too long were denied the compensation they earned. 50 years ago, courageous farm workers in Delano helped bring about progress that would forever change the labor movement, both within the Filipino American community and for our country as a whole. And in the decades that have followed, Filipino American citizens have helped expand our nation's promise throughout every aspect of our society. As you come together to celebrate the extraordinary ways that Filipino Americans have contributed to our country, you have my warmest regards. President Barack Obama. Oh.
That's great.
I also wanted to let you know that it was September 28th, I believe it was, Marilyn Strickland, Tacoma mayor, also presented a proclamation from the city of Tacoma. And I'm going to give Tacoma School District that proclamation also. And as all of you know, the years past, Ray Pasqua, who was the leader in getting us the proclamation, has always been able to be here. He wasn't able to be here this year, but also present to you the proclamation from the House of Representatives, the Senator, and the Governor. And again, thank you very much, and our hope is that we continue to strive to have the Filipino culture more examined in our schools, and I really appreciate you letting us be here this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And would you please come up so that we can thank you?
I'll make it brief. This Saturday, we are going to celebrate the Filipino American History Month at the Museum of Glass starting at 11 o'clock. Probably for everybody, the theme is about our story here in Washington, focus story in Washington. So we're gonna have the early days in Seattle, the 1900 farmers of Wapato and Yakima, and the early Philippine Scouts at Lakewood, and a lot of course, we always have food and entertainment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and work. Thank you.
All right, item number 7, members of the public wishing to address the board. Do we have anyone this evening?
Yes, we have 3 members that are speaking regarding the benchmarks, which are on the agenda tonight to take final action. Now, speaker number 1, Lucas Meraldo, followed by Sally Perkins.
And I will remind the public, school board members, encourage public participation. Your input is appreciated. If you would like to address the school board, follow these steps. Complete a citizen's request to speak card, which is located at the back of the auditorium. Submit the card to the school board secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Cards submitted after the public comment period has ended will not be considered at this session. The superintendent will call your name when it is your turn to address the school board. Please speak into the microphone. You will have up to 3 minutes to share your comments. At the 2-minute mark, you'll hear a ding. You have 60 seconds on the clock, and then 60 more seconds, and you'll hear the last ding.
Good evening.
There are times when it occurs to me that a sophisticated partnering conversation would not even happen if a lot of groundwork had not been set in advance. So I want to thank our superintendent, our deputy superintendent, and our school board members for making this moment possible. There are districts across this nation that are not ready to have the conversation that we're having a dialogue amongst equals, and we thank you all for making this possible. Like many other community members, I attended a very intentional set of conversations around the existing benchmark with an eye toward improvement and prioritization, open for revision as the school district prepared to evaluate its coming years of goal setting. Vibrant Schools and other community members were very interested in those discussions. We're convinced that any educational system values what it measures and it budgets. And as an aside, we wanted to thank you for additional support for AVID and for the partnership initiatives. Thank you very much. If we're going to eliminate the achievement gap, our benchmarks need to lead the way, not only by establishing ambitious goals for our youth, but also articulating strategies that will get us there. And once those goals are set, just as this board checks in with our superintendent on a regular basis, we need to check in on how we are doing to eliminate a pernicious achievement gap, which will take our collective focus and energy, starting from the administrative central core and moving outward. We're concerned if the school board adopts the benchmarks as they are currently being presented without a thoughtful focus on the achievement gap and all of the academic areas referenced, will not move forward in the way that we must. We take very seriously Dr. Garcia's challenge to Vibrant Schools to be a constructive and productive critical partner. And so we welcome the chance to engage with the school district leadership in discussing how we can activate a clear plan to address the ongoing achievement gap issues. We need the board to continue to ask the really hard questions here. Where do we see the disparities continue? What are we doing about it? What's working? And how quickly can we interrupt actions that are not productive? And what kind of data can make us aware of effective and ineffective interventions? How can we continue to provide support for these things that are going really well for our students? And finally, do our goal-setting numbers represent our highest expectations for students of color? We must lean in on all of this. We're impressed by parallel work being done by the Urban Collaborative, which is engaged with our school district to address the needs of developmentally and differently able diverse students in ways that embrace a whole classroom inclusive model. The group has shown district-wide progress as well as owning areas where progress still needs to happen. You've collectively sent the message that root changes can happen. I join with my colleagues in inviting us to create the very best plan and most ambitious measures that represent transformative benchmarks with real teeth behind them. Thank you.
After Sally Perkins is Liesl Santkow.
President Hines, Superintendent Santorno, and members of the board, thank you first of all for the target goals that you have proposed for a number of the strategic plan benchmarks. It's great to see this initial set of goals. Vibrant Schools would like to ask that the board provide added detail to these target goals, and to do so, would like to ask that the board not take action tonight on this item so that the additional detail can be developed. Knowing how important it is to this board and to the community that the achievement gap be effectively closed for students of color and students impacted by poverty, Vibrant Schools requests that specific target goals be established for the student subgroups for whom you are already disaggregating data for the strategic plan. This means that the board and the district would set group-specific target goals for Black, Latino, Pacific Islander, Native American, Asian, and white students, and free and reduced yes students. Goals that communicate this board's strong commitment to making a significant improvement for students whose academic performance has lagged the district or state standard. The arithmetic formula proposed at the September 24th meeting, adding 10% to the difference between 2015 levels and 100% each year, does in fact narrow the gap a little bit. But when I ran those numbers for Black and Latino third graders, even with a 10% improvement each year assumed by the formula, nearly 30% of the Black and Latino third graders would still be performing below standard in 2018. In fact, even the total third grade goals for 2018 assume that almost 30% of all the students are still performing below standard. Knowing your strong commitment to improving student performance for students of color and students impacted by poverty, having as many as 30% of the students in these groups still below standard in 2018 doesn't reflect your strong belief that all of our students can succeed academically. And it doesn't reflect the many innovative and creative strategies and best practices that the district has been implementing since 2012 to close the gap. An example of this would be the Young Male Learners of Color project. By analyzing current data and by factoring in the many innovations and improvements that the district has already implemented and intends to implement, the district should be able to set inspiring numerical goals that reflect both the district's level of effort and the high expectations that the district and the community hold for all of our students. Vibrant Schools believes that goals generated in this manner will be materially higher than the ones that are on your list for tonight. This is a great opportunity to propose powerful goals and get additional community feedback about those goals. Thank you for your consideration of this approach.
President Hines and members of the school board, Superintendent Santorno and Deputy Superintendent Garcia, buenas noches. My name is Liesl Sankyle, and I'm a parent, an advocate, and a Vibrant Schools Steering Committee member. I am here to speak on the strategic plan benchmarks target goals as well. I concur with Luke and Sally that we need to provide added detail to these target goals in order to ensure that students of color and those impacted by poverty are supported in very specific and targeted ways, so we see a decrease in the achievement gap that is so prevalent. I urge the board to consider delaying action tonight on this agenda item so that the detail can be added regarding how to improve and increase target goals with race and ethnicity group gaps in mind. This will strengthen the target goals and benchmarks. I am very happy as a parent and an advocate to have such a progressive school board, making policy decisions that are not only in the best interests of all our students, but move us to improve, increase student learning, and be strategic about how we allocate resources. Measuring progress is critical, and setting target goals is essential. Further, we do need to set aggressive goals so that students of colors do equally as well as their white peers. We need to have an intentional plan with specific target goals, and we need to know how. How are we going to get there to decrease the achievement and opportunity gap? We want to see this plan laid out clearly to intentionally eliminate the race gaps, and I want to see it paid attention to in these target goals. I know that the board is absolutely committed and sincere. However, the goals as currently displayed do not address the achievement gap directly. We've started down this road of implementing innovative and creative strategies since 2012 to close the gap, and it's a great start. But I want to see the expectations higher. I want one bold plan to eliminate disparities among groups of students. Speaking of higher expectations, the district has been courageous in admitting that there is indeed disproportionate discipline in Tacoma Public Schools, but we need to move forward on this issue. There has been some community and school administrator input since December last year to address not the actual policy, but to reframe regulation in practice. Vibrant Schools suggested in spring that it go further, that there be intentional outreach to communities of color impacted, and NAACP and Vibrant Schools have extended their hands to host 2 of these dialogues. They are open and ready. We need the district to reach back. We are now seeing models across the city that represent this new form of dialogue amongst equals. The city of Tacoma has been proactive in their outreach to communities disproportionately affected by the criminal justice system with their peace dialogues. The school district needs to be more proactive and intentional about work to decrease disproportionate discipline. In addition to better outreach and involving community in solutions, setting goals to reduce disciplinary action, not just behaviors, which puts the onus only on the students and not on the adults, must be prioritized to effectively eliminate this disparity, as well as reduce the total number of disciplinary actions. And it is important that the new goal results in way fewer expulsions and suspensions. We need our kids in school in order for them to succeed. Thank you. And we look forward to working with the school district on this issue.
We have one more speaker that wants to speak regarding the Tacoma School District property concern. Courtney Goots.
Yes. Thank you. I hate to interrupt the main topic, but my coming up here today is about your property in the Blueberry Park area. My name is Courtney Goots, and I want to thank you for letting me speak. I am a teacher. I'm a member of this community. I have a son, and I am a part of Safe Streets. And I'm talking here today because I need to implore you to first add the property you own next to Blueberry Park to your agenda and consider it earnestly, and make a timely, wise choice for your use of that property soon. A real long-term use decision. The neighborhood that I live in, we are suffering because of this property. We live in a place where we have lots of children. It's a beautiful greenbelt. We came to this property, and so do the people around us, because it is a wonderful area. Blueberry Park is gorgeous. Our neighborhood is wonderful. Our people in our neighborhood are wonderful. However, your property is not. You have an undeveloped wetland property that you have been sitting on for years and years and years, and it is a problem that the police and the city have been dealing with, and not you. We have the drug trade incipient in the property on a regular basis. Police are there dealing with drug problems, including one, for example, just the other day, of an unconscious individual from drugs that was found on the property. We have prostitution rampant through the property. I've actually helped the police department by going to John's School and talking to them. One of the popular places in the city to find a prostitute is your property. There are also dozens of homeless camps there, with over 40 people that live in those camps on a regular basis. They have caused fires that have spread into our neighborhood. There are needles, condoms, and other things that are related to the homeless in your property that are causing problems in our neighborhood on a daily basis. Like I said, the police are called to that property almost every single day, at least once a day. And the Safe Streets program has been trying hard to work with the area to make this area safe. But we can't do that if this property remains the way it is. I know, being a wetland, that there's not a lot you can do with it as a school district, but we really, really implore that you help us. There is a school that you have 3 blocks from this property. Think of this, an elementary school, 3 blocks from this property. If my son can't help you, hopefully knowing that you have a school 3 blocks from there can. We really need you to help us. Thank you very much.
First and foremost, thank you very much for your comments. We are in a joint conversation with the Metro Parks and the city, and Executive Director Steve Murakami, and working on a plan to not only clean up the property, but work with the community to provide several different options for long-term programming. And one of the requests has been that we don't just go in and do it on our own, but that we work with the leadership and the guidance of the city, who has some experience in this work. And so we're working with their timelines. The board has made their commitment, as well as the superintendent, to make sure it happens as quickly as we can. And so we're literally monitoring it on a day-to-day basis of where we are with the city as well as the parks. And so we give you our word that we will work as expediently and responsibly as we can.
Thank you so much for addressing me.
Any more public comments?
No.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8, Superintendent's Report.
So I asked Cass Tang to give you a report on our summer school. We worked very hard to project manage our summer school and to provide as many services as we could for our students, and Cass helped arrange and manage that whole project, and thank you, Cass, for coming tonight to give us a report on that.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent, leadership of the board. We continue to take the funds that you provide and continue to make the summer programming better every year. We hold ourselves accountable. We have some metrics to share with you. And I just really want to explain that there's so many people involved in summer school, it's almost like running regular school. So there are some people here that will come up and tell you all about their programs, because we're working under the leadership of the directors and all of their staff, all of the schools, all of the office coordinators, and all of the support services. So let me turn this over to them, because as a good project manager, it involves delegation. So thank you very much. Doug Hostetter will now present.
Good evening, President Hines, members of the board, Superintendent Santorno, Deputy Garcia. Yeah, it's a great evening to present about the summer school program from last summer. I remember when Superintendent and Deputy Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent Pace came to me and said, why don't you put together a more robust summer program? And I was the director of high schools at the time, so I was thinking, oh, some credit retrieval, maybe a little transition. Well, that was then, and this is now. I mean, we have moved from there to a comprehensive summer program, K through 12, and you're going to see some of the data that we've been able to collect from that program to reflect its success. And that success is a result of Cass's, I'm sure she feels like she's herding cats half the time when she's trying to get us all moving in the same direction. But she does a great job managing us and giving us direction. And Cass's, I need to also acknowledge someone that works at PMO, and that's Dorothy Churchill, who did a lot of work, a lot of crossing the T's and dotting the I's for this to happen. So with my colleagues and myself, we're going to go ahead and present some of our findings. Oh, I'm clicking. Okay, the purpose of this presentation is just to provide an overview of summer school 2015, and hopefully by the end of this presentation, you as board members will be able to share with our community some of the highlights of our summer program. Some things that we did new this summer, we had online registration, so instead of students and parents having to fill out paperwork and picking the paperwork up and turning it in, we offered them online registration. And about 34% of the summer school participants took advantage of that online registration. And again, it goes without saying, every year we intend to get better, and so we expect that metric to improve. We added middle school summer camp this summer for reading and math, leveraging Title I funds that we had provided. And we also, the nutrition services provided online training for our food servers so they didn't have to go off-site. It's just a lot more efficient use of time for school staff to do online training rather than go to the site. So the priorities, like I said, Deputies Superintendent Santorno, Deputy Garcia, and Assistant Superintendent Pace provided direction, and we set priorities, the number one priority being high school credit retrieval. Something new this year is we created a opt-out policy for 11th grade students who are behind in credit, so they were automatically enrolled. Transition, we had transition between pre-kindergarten to kindergarten, 5th grade to 6th grade, and 8th grade to 9th grade. We offered prep for acceleration programs and enrichment programs this summer. And one little anecdote about the high school credit retrieval opt-out, David McColgan, who's an assistant principal at Mount Tahoma High School, made the comment that the very first day of summer school, 2 kids came in and sat down in their class and said, well, I guess we have to be here. What do we need to do? And so they just came because they were told to come, and they ended up doing very well. So that was kind of nice. So some overview statistics. At the high school, well, you can see, first of all, the district-wide count. Last year, we had about 4,950 students, which makes up 16% of the total Tacoma Public Schools population. This year, we passed the 5,000 barrier, which is about 17% of the Tacoma Public School population. So that's a fantastic number. 17% of our students didn't have summer creep or miss out on academic opportunities. They were, because of the work of my colleagues and the work of our staffs, able to participate in academic programming this summer. At the high school, we had close to 1,700 students involved this summer. Credit retrieval, 770. That went down a little bit, and I'll explain that in a upcoming slide. And in transition, our transition numbers went up substantially at the high school level from just short of 900 to over 900. Middle schools, you can see the totals of middle school students went way up, and that's because we expanded our middle school offerings for students. Summer camps, you can see, went way up, and transition opportunities went up, which is fantastic. Elementary numbers went down slightly. all programs down slightly, but our transition numbers increased. And overall, we had 41,365 meals served to our students over the summer. So a shout out to our nutrition services department. So I'll talk about priorities 1 and 2 and then turn it over to one of my colleagues. But the first is credit retrieval. Edgenuity is an online offering. It allows students to take a variety of different courses in a flexible grouping, so we can have one student at one desk taking math and another student at another desk taking science and so on. It allows for efficient staffing of our summer school. We provided headsets to our students this year so they could listen to the online programming, which includes videos and lessons provided by teachers, kind of like Khan Academy, if you've seen those videos. Courses are customized to avoid redundancy, so since these are credit recapture courses, students don't have to take the entire geometry course. If that's what they lost credit in, they can take just the portions of the geometry course that they didn't meet standard on during the school year. And our schools, our staff are becoming more familiar and comfortable with using Edgenuity. And they continue to do so throughout the school year. So if you look at our credit retrieval numbers, you can see the range everywhere from other, which is Oakland and the Willie Stewart Academy, up to Lincoln, which had 214 students involved in credit recovery. So there's our total of 770. Our second priority was our transition program. And transition provides students learning activities, provide them academic and social preparation. If you look at the slide, you can see in kindergarten, the 2015 incoming eligible column, that means the number of incoming kindergartners this year was 1,647, and of that 1,647, 719 or 44% participated in that transition program. 5th and 6th, you can see 1967 were eligible, 875 participated, so that's 44%. And the high school, 1670 were eligible, 929 participated. That's 56% of our incoming 9th graders participated. We have a little research quote down there. As we're all aware, these transition programs are very important, especially for the 9th grade level, which research says is really a pivotal year for students in determining whether or not they're going to graduate. Giving them a jump start on their 9th grade year through these transition programs is just so very, very beneficial. And so there's our high school transition numbers. I can't see those numbers from this far, but if you look, you can see that there's a wide range of numbers that participated, and again, it's an increase in almost every school to get to 56%. And you'll see in another slide, we had a stretch goal. We want 100% of our students attending. We set a goal of 80% this year, and our philosophy is you aim for the stars, and if you hit the moon, you just keep going. At least you're aiming high in setting these stretch goals for our students. Middle school transition, you can see those numbers. Variety, some certainly not as high as we would like, some very high, some very good participation. You can see that Stewart was in the transition and it's moved to Hunt, so they couldn't have a transition program this summer. And before I turn over to Kindergarten Jumpstart, when I talked about summer school, and if you look at the stadium numbers, they're pretty high. With the direction under the leadership of Kevin Aketa, the principal, he said, you know what, we have a lot of students that live on the north end of town, on the other side of the port, and it's hard for them to come across the port to get to the school to do summer school. So he says, how about if we set up summer school at Meeker Junior High for our students? And because of that, we had those students that attended Meeker, 22 out of 25 earned credit, and that's 88% of the students at Meeker working on high school courses earned credit. And we wanted to recognize, I don't know, is Amy Behope here? Amy was the teacher at Meeker, so I wanted to point her out and give her a hand. So it's the leadership and the time and the hard work that Amy put in with those kids that we're just thrilled with the results. All right, Tracy Ferguson.
So I get to talk about the best students in Tacoma Public Schools, our income kindergartners. Back one, please, thank you. So we served over 700 of our incoming kindergartners in our Jumpstart program. We expected 1,647 students. Our goal was to serve 44% of our students. We met our goal at 34%. But again, like Doug said, we set stretch goals, and so we set our goals high in serving our students. We had 26 of our elementary schools participate in Jumpstart, and we had 8 that opted out. So we anticipate 100% of our elementary schools participating next year in Jumpstart to catch more of our kindergartners as they start kindergarten, and it builds leadership within the classroom. So day one, they're ready to go. The teacher already has leaders to help out the students that may not have had a chance to attend. So I will turn it over to Sandra to talk about priorities 3 and 4.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about priorities 3 and 4. And we are so excited because the goal was to improve individual reading scores through targeted reading support. There were some wonderful partnerships that were established, but in regards to literacy, the lowest performing students had the opportunity to attend these programs, and those were our level 1 and 2 students who were invited to participate. Also, our students who are English language learners, they participated in ELL services as well as enrichment opportunities. The prep for middle school students, was achieved by setting certain goals, and we really wanted to have a challenging curriculum, especially with math and in finance, but really would like to talk about the partnerships within our community members, the partnerships within the city of Tacoma, especially Metro Parks and the Y, and the Boys and Girls Club, because they partnered with us, and some of our activities may have started in a classroom, but it ended with one of the partners, so it was a great day for the students, and full days that they could participate in other activities. So we were very excited about that outcome. I'm going to turn it over right now to Dr. Manon Hodge, talking about ELL reading and vocabulary.
So good evening. Before I explain the slide that's on there, okay, I wanted to mention that we offer the ELL program at 10 sites this past summer, one at Stadium, one at Stadium, one at First Creek, and at the other 8 elementary school sites. And the goal this year was to increase the comprehension and vocabulary understanding of the student in level 1 and level 2. And you can see on the chart here that almost all of the students were able to make advances and gain at least one level. I'd like to draw your attention to particularly Roosevelt and Stafford. Stafford had 90% of students gaining either 1 or 2 or 3 level of comprehension and vocabulary that they gained between the first day of summer school and the last day of attendance. And Roosevelt has 80%, so we're pretty proud of that. In addition, 90% of our high school students were able to gain a 0.5 credit for the time that they attend summer school.
Would like to make some comments regarding some of the enrichment programs, thank you very much, that were offered to our students over the summer. Various enrichment programs in the areas of math, science, and leadership on the high school level. Ready, Set, Read, which was fantastically attended. If you notice, in 2014, there was a great number of students, but again, with the various offerings, that number did decrease a little bit this year. However, we also were able to offer Indian education, offer some enrichment to English language learners, the extended school year for our SPED students, and summer reading camp, which was fantastic. So if you look at the percentage, the total number of students with opportunities, it was an improvement there. So we're happy to have those numbers increase. For our next slide, regarding how we met success. We were just very excited about the opportunities to meet our highly qualified requirements. Our students did extremely well. If you look at the targeted goals for our English ESL students, there was a tremendous increase, especially going from level 1, 2, and 3. We offered the reading camps, the kindergarten jump starts, the 5th to 6th transition, the 8th to 9th transition, and credit retrieval, ESY, and Indian education. So as you look at all the options that were offered, our students have wonderful opportunities to meet success over this summer. As we all plan and we continue to plan, we're planning now for next summer. We know that we want these numbers to increase, and we're really working steadily on that to have success. So as we talk about what have we learned from all of this information, we definitely know that we really want to spend a lot more time on training our staff. That's going to be a great emphasis for us. We want to continue to empower and train and use eSchool Plus, which is a wonderful software package here that we use for in the district regarding registration, attendance, and reporting, so that we can have a consistency, especially with the numbers of attending students and how we will report that information back to you. We definitely want to consider, and this will be done, is that kindergarten registration, which had always been done in March, will move up to January. So that's even giving our parents an opportunity to get those kids enrolled. We can move forward knowing what our numbers will look like, so we're excited about that. We want to increase the enrichment offerings for students and identify resources to enter attendance and process timesheets. We really want to make sure that the information that we're getting from those that are attending is accurate and consistent. And we also want to sync reports from our eSchool Plus so that we can make sure that we have all our students will be captured, and when we're really ready to sit down at the end and look at who all attended and what can we provide to you as far as accurate information. So we did have a lot of lessons that were learned, and we really are trying to be proficient every day and to provide excellent service to our students and provide to you all accurate information. Tracy?
So we had a lot of lessons learned as well as some celebrations. We were honored to have a press release from King 5 to report at Point Defiance and interview some of our students at our Jump Start program, our Kinder Jump Start program. We were also honored to have Senator Patty Murray visit Mann and not only visit the classroom, but have a conversation with Dr. Garcia and Director Vial and the principal, Pat Kennedy, on early learning. She learned a lot and also paid Tacoma a compliment on our district having a model early learning program. We have testimonials from our students that they enjoyed summer school. Summer school was really cool, so coming from a 13-year-old, that's awesome. They had field trips on every Thursday, and there was also lots of learning during their academic time. Another 13-year-old said they really learned a lot around math and finances. Lots of parent testimonials, and we just chose one for tonight. And it just talked about it made it possible for her child to graduate on time. And as a parent of a high schooler, I know that is huge and a big accomplishment, and as well as thanking us for making it possible for other children in the community. I will turn it over to Dr. Hodge to end our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In summary, you could see that many more kids were able to attend summer school this year, and the percentage of increase is 5.2%. And for the ESL part, I can say that almost 70% of the students attending ESL summer school were able to make gain either 1, 2, or 3 level. So we are pretty happy about that, but we will continue to work together, and maybe we even have more exciting news next year. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Director Winskill.
I just want to say, I think that's just great about going to Meeker, and so they didn't have to commute down the hill. That was a really great idea. And there was, So I have a little bit of a concern about just doing early registration in January. I just hope we really get the word out, and I'm sure we're going to have people dribbling in for months after that as their children. I mean, I see, the reason why we'd like to have early numbers, but boy, that's really early. So it's 9 months before school starts. So good luck on that one.
You bet. And we'll work with families throughout the year to make sure. As a confession, I had my third child come through, and the school had to call me and say, "You have a kindergartner coming through. It's time that you register." So,
good.
Yeah, we will. I always remember that because we will be flexible with our families and we'll help them. But we want them to start educating them early, especially around the opportunities around Jumpstart and giving them previews and stuff. But we will work diligently to make sure the door is wide open, and we'll take them even after school starts.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we will.
So I'm
I
sure
would
if you're
hope
in
so.
Tacoma, you begin to call a year in advance about your kindergartner. So
We can talk about that offline.
I thought in my neighborhood, I think it's 2.
Vice President Vial.
I remember when we started this conversation back about 3 years ago, and some of us weren't real thrilled with the way our summer school program looked. Well, I think we should be very pleased with the amazing progress that's occurred, and thank you to, I know it was Tony Pace's leadership and Doug and everyone else, that so many of our kids now are getting extended year, and we know that they need it. And just to look at the variety of programs and what we're offering, and the fact that we're going to see actual academic increases during the summer, I think is, short of amazing. And I think sometimes we forget how much progress we have made in the last four years in this school district. And this is just an example. When we look at the credit retrieval, we look at the one parent saying, "Thank you, my child graduated from high school." I mean, those testimonials, I think, are certainly indicative that we're doing a good job. I have a question. I know last year, it's probably too early yet, but I remember we looked at the, I think it was the early assessments for reading and math for the kids who had gone to summer school, and we saw that they had not lost ground. Are we doing that again this year? Maybe Sandra, or Manon? You come up, hon, so we can hear you.
Apologize.
That's
Just
all
think
right.
everybody can hear me. Data is being reviewed almost daily, and so we really are looking at even in our waiver days, the full waiver days that
Right.
were approved for us, but in individual staff meetings, principals are going over data and looking back to the students that where have they grown from last semester to now, and we are doing daily assessments just to make sure there was not any summer slide. So we really are looking
I
at
guess the
data.
question I was asking, last year, we did give us some statistics that the kids that attended summer school
Mhm.
didn't have summer slide. In fact, some were a bit ahead when they started school. So will we be looking at that data also?
Definitely,
Great.
again, definitely it's being looked at and reviewed, and we really want to see where they are, and we want to make sure that there isn't anything that is lost by any student.
Well, and I think part of the reason I'm asking that question is sometimes people think summer school is just something where you send the kids to, spend some time, and that we are really serious that this is a part of our strategic plan goal of all students achieving at their highest level. So I really, again, I know Director Hines and I both were, I think, our first or second meeting when we saw those summer school scores, and we're kind of rolling our eyes, and now we're sitting here, really, really pleased. So thank you so very much, all
I
of you.
definitely can add that I visited several summer school sites over the summer, and it was very strategic and planned, and I was very pleased in the work that was being performed, and we do want to do a better job, so every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate the thorough report. I'd like to commend the superintendent and the deputy superintendent, because several years ago we were concerned about the direction of our summer school, and you've done an exemplary job in extending the school year for kids and families. This past summer, my family benefited. I had a Jumpstart middle schooler, and he absolutely loved getting to spend 4 days and learning how to get into his locker and know where the lunchroom was and take some academic courses, and it dispelled some of the myths about going to middle school and some of those spaces within the middle school. It was fantastic, and I know he had friends that benefited as well. So From a board perspective, I appreciate the good work. We're not done yet, but I think we're trending in the right direction. And personally, I appreciate how it's benefited our family. So thank you. Deputy Superintendent Garcia.
Just real quickly, and a really large thank you to our community, because as you know, the Foundation for Tacoma Students is also working with summer programming, and we're our staff and their staff working relentlessly to align, and so they're collecting their data, and we're getting better as a community. And so although we are only serving 17%, that's not to say that there's only 17% of the students getting summer programming inside the Tacoma Public Schools, and that's a tremendous resource and asset for us. So thank you to the Foundation Tacoma students, as well as all of our community partners that participate.
Right. Thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Director Winskill.
Yeah, I also want to recognize Cass Tang, who took this on a few years ago, and you know, summer school in the past just was school as usual for those students who hated school, and has come back and have a little bit more, and now it's very different and creative, and you know, the students really benefit from it, and I think many of them like it. So, thank you, Cass, very much.
Great job.
All right, thank you all. We'll move on to item number 9, the consent agenda.
I move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to
Director
know if there's
Miller.
anybody representing Meeker and the New Zealand field trip today. No, I think it's the first time ever nobody's been here, but we're approving that field trip. And my son and I were a part of it over 20 years ago.
That's great.
So it's a long-going, amazing program. And I think the Kiwis were here last week, something like that. So,
They did submit about a lovely binder about this thick with all of their supporting information, which from the risk management perspective was lovely and refreshing to have all of that in one nice, beautiful binder 5 months ago.
I think we've got it down by now.
Thank you for sharing. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
So I want to make
Director
a comment
Winskill.
about somebody is traveling to the foreign language conference, and I read that this teacher from Lincoln has these monthly meetings of people in foreign language teachers, which I think is wonderful, and I think that's just a great great for our district that we're getting all those teachers together to look at what is next in teaching foreign languages. So good expenditure of money there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Policy, item number 10, policy matters. 10.1, adoption of revisions to policy 2163.
The General Counsel recommends that the Board of Directors approve the revisions to Policy 2163, Aversive Interventions, one of which would be changing the title of the policy to Isolation and Restraint.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 10.2, adoption of revisions to policy 3244.
The General Counsel recommends that the Board of Directors approve the revisions to Policy 3244, Prohibition of Corporal Punishment.
I move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 10.3, adoption of revisions to policy series 5000.
The General Counsel recommends that the Board of Directors approve the revisions to Policy Series 5000, Personnel.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment, I did actually look through most of them. Ms. McMenamy did a very nice job, as usual, in bringing these things up to date, and some of them were fairly out of date, so thank you for getting us legal again, so to speak.
I would just add, and I appreciate all of the work that went into it. There were some typos.
Those get
I'm
cleaned up with
assuming we're
the-
going to get that cleaned up? Okay, all right, and thank you. It was yeoman's work to get this done, and we had a conversation a couple weeks ago about should we take this on, and we agreed that we don't run from the tough work, and I know you led that work, so thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 11, quarterly financial update. Next month. Item number 12, curriculum and instruction. 12.1, approval of beginning educator support team grant application.
The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve submission of the Beginning Educator Support Team Grant application in the amount of $335,000 to the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and if funded, approve expenditure of funds according to the accepted guidelines.
I move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 12.2, approval of the Birth to 3 Development Center TSD 15073 addendum number 2 for services for the 2015-16 school year.
The Deputy Superintendent, on behalf of the Assistant Superintendent of Support Services, recommends the Board of Directors approves the contract renewal for the Birth to 3 Development Center for the 2015-16 school year.
I move approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just one question.
Vice President Vial?
Is that the center at Mary Bridge?
I'm going to have our Assistant Superintendent of Support Service, Jennifer
Or
Troffler,
through
come up.
Mary Bridge?
Pardon me?
Is that the program that we have with Mary Bridge, where we do the screenings and all that?
No, this is not specifically with Mary Bridge, but
Okay, I
this,
was who-
but this is screenings for infants through age 3, up to age 3.
Who are we contracting with?
So this is one of the providers. This is Birth to 3. Their home base is located in Federal Way, and they have a local one here in Tacoma as well. And we have, I believe, 4 other providers. Hope Sparks is another. We've brought the other contracts. This was one that was left to wrap up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Eshka?
Just real quick, how do we let people know that this screening service is available? How do people know?
So we advertise that out. We provide the notifications to our doctor's offices, to daycares, to churches. And, we can always do a better job of reaching out to the community. Every year we worry about the little ones that come into us in kindergarten, and how did we miss them? Where were they? So.
Well, right, you can't use a resource if you don't know about it. Yeah. Okay.
Could I just make a
Vice President Vial?
When our grandson was born almost a year ago, he failed hearing tests, and immediately he was referred from St. Joseph's over to Mary Bridge. So they tracked that, and as it turned out, it was just a lot of infants do, and thankfully he hears fine. But I know that we were all as a family grateful that they do that service. But I know that not everyone has a child delivered in Tacoma Hospital, so do we do a little outreach with pediatricians and things like that?
Absolutely. We always want to make sure and help support our families that it's a free service that we can provide. So if
Correct.
they don't have the insurance options, that we can provide that for them for free.
Yeah, good to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 13, business matters. 13.1, approval of architectural selection for Browns Point Elementary Replacement Project.
The Chief Operating Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve the selection of TCF Architects for the design of the new Browns Point Elementary School project and authorize staff to negotiate and enter into agreements for pre-design, conceptual design, and related services not to exceed the amount of approximately $250,000.
I move approval.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 13.2, approval of architectural selection for Mary Lyon Elementary Replacement Project.
The Chief Operating Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve the selection of DAWA-IBI Group Architects for the design of the new Mary Lyon Elementary School project and authorize staff to negotiate and enter into agreements for pre-design, conceptual design, and related services not to exceed the amount of approximately $250,000.
I move approval.
Second?
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 14, other business. 14.1, adoption of benchmark target goals.
On behalf of the superintendent, the deputy superintendent recommends the Board of Directors adopts the benchmark target goals.
Move adoption?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to make
Director
a comment.
Linsco.
I know that people would like us to hold off on them, but, we're kind of into the school year, and I do think we could tweak and just continue discussing, and I just think this is a good time to adopt them. But I do have a question about, last time I asked a question about elementary math, or kindergarten math, or first grade math, I think it was, to go across the list. And you said that you want people to achieve like a 3 by the end, that's their benchmark. So I am hearing from several teachers in kindergarten, or first grade, just about the stress of having to give these pre-tests, how much time it takes, the stress on the students. And I just want to have people take that into consideration for these really little 6-year-old, 5-year-olds, and 6-year-olds who have to undergo that. So I know there's a lot of controversy about too much testing, so I'd like us to look at that and really talk to the teachers about, whether they think it's in the best interest of those little children to be heavily tested.
All right, thank you. Deputy Garcia.
Absolutely, Director Winskill. And one of the things that, based on your previous comments as a board, that has started this year already is this. We have had a new assessment director, Dr. Funying, has come on board. Assistant Superintendent Verhar has started to lead a project around the analysis of how many tests per grade level for which subject levels. The first step of that was to start doing surveys with staff, teachers first. What are the perceptions? What are the fears of this work? Collecting that data. Then the administration's teams of teachers are getting together to start to analyze what's already working, what's not working, what can we start to eliminate. And so we'll be throughout the year bringing you updates under the topic of assessment. What's assessment? What's testing? Where can we stop doing some testing? Where do we need to do other testing to reduce redundancy? But I think your comments are spot on and have driven this work. So we'll bring those back to you at later dates.
Good, thank you.
And I appreciate that approach. I think that's been the will of this board, is to have that sort of information so that we can be accountable to the public on that topic. So thank you.
And,
Any other questions or comments?
Just one
Vice President
comment.
Vial?
I think we need to do, and this is becoming buzzword, but I don't think it's for us, making sure that we're assessing and not particularly testing, and there's a big difference. And without that, we have to do some, because we have to obviously we have to have a baseline. We have to know where the kids are. We also, as a former teacher, we need to know if our kids are making progress, and the only way you can do that basically is to assess them again, and making sure that as a teacher, frankly, that's for but once a teacher, always a teacher, I think. Then you know yourself whether you are teaching your kids and teaching them the concepts by the assessment that you give the kids. So I think we can do a better job and relieve that concept of testing and talking about assessing and getting baselines and having the opportunity, so that we can, without a baseline, we aren't going to know where we are on benchmarks each year with our kids. So I'm glad that we're looking at it, and I think we can refine it down to a better job of talking to parents about what is a test and what is an assessment. And I don't think we've done, frankly, a very good job of differentiating between those two. That if my first grader, my granddaughter goes to school down in Nevada, my son said she got assessed at where her reading level is and not tested. So I think that's a word that we need to get away from, and at the same time know why we are doing it. So that's just a suggestion for as we move forward for less testing and just more assessing, knowing where our kids are and how good we are as teachers. If we don't do that, we don't have a clue. And that's where that, my bias, where these big standardized tests have come, because in the past we probably as educators have not done as good a job of selling the assessing process, and we wound up with those. So that's my editorial comment for the evening. So thank you, and hopefully we'll take that into consideration as to how we discuss what we're doing when we talk about measuring our kids, that we're assessing and we're not necessarily testing.
Director Miller.
So even though we might be approving this tonight, doesn't mean, like Director Winskill said, that we've stopped working on the benchmarks. So it's a continuing process, and thank you to the Deputy Superintendent and Superintendent to bring it forward to us, and working with the community on this also.
Well, with the assessment piece, I think we have an opportunity to lead. We've led on a lot of areas within the state and across the nation. Our emphasis on whole child and multiple measure. I have not seen a standardized test that is focused on measuring empathy or conflict resolution, and yet those are skills that we want our students to leave with when they graduate with their diploma and go out into the world. And I think there's an opportunity through assessment to really model what that looks like for other districts. With respect to the benchmarks, I will be voting yes tonight, but I am appreciative, and I want this to be a continuing dialogue, that this is not set in stone, that where we can get better, we need to get better. I think there's an opportunity to continue to make improvements. We're starting down that path tonight, but there's still work yet to be done. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of adopting the benchmark, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 5-0. Item 15, report to the board. None this evening. Thank you. Item number 16, board comments and reports. I'll start with Director Miller.
Nothing to report, except I saw the smile on your face when there was no report to the board. Thank you. I saw 5 smiles here, 6.
Director Winsco.
I don't have any report either.
Director Ushka.
I'll pass, thank you.
Vice President Vial.
Well, I do have a short one. I went to CUBE, Council of Urban Boards of Education, last week, and our whole child brochure was the hottest item there. We should have been selling them. People were amazed at what we are doing. In fact, Pedro Noguera, who was here in Puyallup addressing people, I gave him a copy. He had talked about no school district is doing this in the country, and he had talked at CUBE, and I handed it to him. And I kiddingly said, "Go west, young man. There is a school district in the U.S. that is doing this." And obviously he read it, because I understand we got big accolades for what we are doing in terms of our benchmarking of our, not only for our academic achievement and for our whole child initiative, but seriously, I think we are the only school district in the country, at least large school district, that is doing this. And I think sometimes, you know, we do talk about the ugly, and we have to, otherwise we don't get better, but I think sometimes we forget really how good we are, and I'm very proud to be a part of this district. Because of Patrick Johnson's work and our board work on equity, I have been asked to be a lead person on the task force on racial isolation of students, from the standpoint of being a resource, and our district being a resource for CUBE. And that includes the work that we have done as a board on our inclusion for our International Baccalaureate and AP, our leadership in equity policy, leadership in the programs that we have done in special ed so far. So I think, you know, it was fun to go there and to be there and to receive recognition that we are as a school district. So to my colleagues, thank you. And I'm proud to be a part of this board and a part of this district.
All right, thank you. I would note that within the last week, we've had 3 students that have been involved in car pedestrian accidents, so our thoughts and prayers are with them and their family. And I also want to note that Vice President Vial and I plan to meet with the mayor and the city to make certain that we're taking every precaution necessary to ensure the safety of our students when they're on their way to and from school, and when they're out in the community during non-school hours. So we're going to do what we can to make certain that this doesn't happen again.
That's great.
Couple quick
Deputy
announcements.
Garcia,
Next week is a week around college and career readiness. So on the 14th, all of our 8th through 12th graders will be taking the PSAT and SAT. Nationally, all the 50 largest city schools, that rate of participation is well under 30%. In Tacoma, it's well over 90%.
Yeah.
Urban schools. So the staff and the community are all rallying around and supporting that.
Taking it for free.
Taking it for free based on your leadership and budgeting for priorities. So it is a cost to the district that our local taxpayers support with our local levies, but we think it's a tremendous commitment to that. Check the website, because there's opportunities for free flu shots, and they're not just for school and students and staff, they're also for community members. And so community members can also get free flu shots at many of our schools. And then finally, some of our students and their families may be getting a unique grade call next week. And we just want to let families know it's for students that have dropped below a C. They'll be getting a message making sure their families know that they've dropped below a C in one or more of their classes. And our whole intent is just to make sure that people are aware before it's too late. it's not a panic. It's not to say that your student's going to fail. It's only to say that we've got a concern and let's start the conversation. And so that is a new approach that will be taking place next week. And that'll happen on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis for our high school students, just to, once again, to try to get our families the most up-to-date information possible.
All right, thank you. And I think that investment that we're making in students' futures by allowing them to take the SAT and the pre-SAT and qualify for grant programs and maybe for the first time realize that they are smart and capable and able to consider college, I think is just a tremendous investment. And with that, the announcement of future board meetings, October 15th, we'll be in this room for a study session between 6 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. and the topics will be the Arlington Elementary School design. We've heard from the board that you all would like to be involved earlier in the process, and we're going to commit to doing that, so this will be an early opportunity to see the design. We will also be discussing the Eastside Community Center at that meeting. And then on October 22nd, we will have a study session from 6 to 6:30 on the innovation policy and process. So as we discussed at the last meeting, an opportunity for us to have time off the dais in dialogue with one another. In order to scope that, I ask anything specific to the policy because it is a pretty broad policy. It's a collection of a series of policies. If you could forward me specific questions, I could help the superintendent scope what that study session will look like. And then we'll have a regular board meeting at 6:45. So we'll take about 15 minutes for the room to be reconfigured. We'll come back up on the dais and have our regular meeting at 6:45.
So why are we having the study session first?
That was, I think, your suggestion.
I think that was his suggestion.
Part of it, not being before the business meeting.
So the
So it could be have the business meeting and then followed by the study session.
Or at least at 5:30 even.
Well, you like it earlier, but
Yeah.
people have to work and everything else, so we've always had the business meeting first, followed by the study session. So I'm sorry if I misspoke, but it's including the study session into the board meeting,
So
but not necessarily first.
it doesn't necessarily have to be first. You can decide to adjust your agenda, but the concept was to allow you, I think there was a request to have a conversation off the dais. So starting at the same time as 6 o'clock and making sure that you had that time on the dais first and then switching over the chairs. If you wanted to flip-flop the conversation, you could as well.
People are used to having the 6 o'clock meeting, so when they have public comment, all those kinds of things, they already know. And so that would be the only issue I would have to keep that.
So I agree with Kurt on that issue.
And then we could
So the
go from
preference
here
is to
over
hold the business meeting first, and then we would adjourn,
Yeah.
transition to the floor, and have a study session after the
Yeah.
business meeting. Is there consensus?
Just to be clear, because I'm assuming that you would like the board set up, the meeting room set up as it normally is for public commentary, so perhaps are you suggesting that for the study session, the board meet in the board conference room and then come back so that you're all at the tables together and members of the public can observe you in the study session without having the custodial staff have to reset up the room?
I think what we had talked about was wanting to have the study session filmed. And so we would need to be in here in order for that to happen, and the recommendation was that we would configure the floor space to accommodate the study session.
So why don't we just sit here and have, talk about it? I don't know why we have to be anywhere else.
Well, I think the thought was it's much more conducive to conversation when we're off the dais and on the floor in that configuration.
Kind of
Looking at each other.
Kind of see each other, don't have to
Right.
crook your neck
There you
to
are.
look down.
I can do that.
I have a suggestion.
I have
if
a
may.
high degree of confidence in our custodial staff. I think we can make it work.
We can make it work. It may, it may be easier if we don't use mics. I don't know. We'll talk to Kevin and see what he can do, because I think it's the mic configuration that's the difficult thing to put together. So, but I think the actual configuration of the room, we can handle that very easily.
So I saw
We'll see.
consensus nod on rearranging. We will plan to meet at 6 o'clock on the 22nd for a business meeting and then move into a study session upon adjournment.
Okay,
All right.
good.
So
And
I went,
Director
I
Winslow.
actually talked to the superintendent about October 15th, there was some city club event for educators, and we talked about, looking at maybe moving that meeting, but had you?
I haven't talked to anybody
No,
about it.
that was not on my
We haven't
radar.
talked about it.
Yeah, I noticed that invite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will take that up. Vice President Vial and
I'll
I will
talk
take
to-
that up
yeah,
with
we'll talk that too.
with the
Okay.
superintendent.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
Yes, I was doing some.
No, I think that this is.
Tanya, do you have anything to sign?